Rocket League is a team game, and if you want to be successful, you need to be an actual part of your team. In today's video, we'll be covering one of the most dangerous mistakes that you can make. Simply not putting yourself in positions on the field where you are able to support your team. And real quick before we do get started, if any of you are interested in having one of your own replays analyzed, make sure you do check out my Discord, which will be linked down in the description, as I do offer free coaching through there. What we'll be looking through here today is a GC1, GC2-ish level 3v3 match from an amateur league, and we'll basically be looking for all of the moments where we put ourselves in spots on the field where we're simply not able to support our teammates. Our first example right here is going to be coming up just under a minute in, and there's going to be a couple of aspects that are pretty consistent in all of these situations, but I'll let this play out. As you can see, we land pretty far upfield. Teammate trying to buy us time to get back, and teammates just not able to buy enough is what some might think. But the aspects we're going to be looking at here, and what you need to be very careful of in your own game, is how aggressively you commit forward on offense, and after those commitments, how quickly you're able to recover and get back into a supportive position on defense. Because when you dive forward like we see in this play, the expectation from your teammates is, okay, we now need to buy time, but if you're not working to get back in the play as quickly as possible, and are instead wandering around the field looking for big boosts rather than picking up small pads, you're putting your team in a worse spot because you're forcing them to buy more time than they actually have to. So right here, what we see is we drive up the wall. And I don't actually hate the look of this challenge because Reddit here has the ball. He has very limited options of where he can go, so applying the pressure isn't necessarily a bad idea. However, what we always need to consider is there an actual reason to? Because by sitting here, we're already forcing him into a pretty difficult spot without ever taking our wheels off the wall. Because with us here, where exactly is he going to go? If he goes around the wall, he's just driving the ball towards us. If he tries to go up to the ceiling, well, either we can cut that off if we see it happening, or our teammates are directly behind us and we can just let him do that and drive back down the wall, which this is probably the safer option. So from a spot like this, as first man, our goal is not necessarily to dive forward and get a touch on the ball, but it is instead to force this player to do something that puts them in a bad spot and puts our team in a better spot, ideally for as little a commitment from us as possible. So right here, if we, instead of jumping, just hit the brakes on this wall and let this guy do whatever it is he's going to do, then we can just, drive down the wall and recover back behind, and we're perfectly well and good. Both of our teammates are here ready to play off of whatever happens, and we're able to get back fairly quickly. Now, that's one option. Going for the challenge also isn't necessarily a terrible idea, because you do still put your opponent in that awkward spot. But then as we're jumping off the wall here, what's going through our head a little bit right now is that we don't want to block our teammate's shot. So we end up doing this weird backflip thing to try to stay out of the way of the net. But in doing so, we just continue to slow down our own recovery. So if we look out here, we can already see a challenge coming through from the opponents. So there's really no reason for us to slow ourselves down. If we happen to get in front of the ball, we get in front of the ball. There's not much we can really do about that, but we need to make sure that our mind is on recovering as quickly as possible, especially because if our teammate does get blocked here, we're leaving a last man back alone for a very long time, since both ourselves and our teammate have just heavily committed forward. So, we do this, we land. At this point, we're in this kind of position where there's only one player back, and all three members of the opposing team are able and oriented to push their way down the field. So in this kind of position, because we only have one teammate back, we know that they are going to try to buy as much time for us as possible. That is their current objective. But we do not need to make their life any more difficult by wandering out for a big boost in the corner or in the midfield. We just need to take the quickest path of pads that we can to get ourselves back in the play as quickly as possible, which in this case is going to be this curved path right next to us right here. If we just flip over this way and get all these pads down this way, we are going to be perfectly fine. Our teammate has bought us plenty of time to get back, so now we are in this supported position, and when this happens, we have a completely free ball to play with, absolutely no problem at all. We can play into the corner, we can pick up this boost, we can go out on our merry way, back down to the other end of the field. But instead, we are out wandering for big boost along the side of the field. There's absolutely nothing over here, and despite our teammates' heroic efforts to buy us enough time to get back in position, we did not get back quickly enough to make his efforts worthwhile, and that's a huge mistake. You need to make sure you get yourself back in supportive positions for your team as quickly as you can, especially if you identify that you've put your teammate in a fairly awkward position already. Moving on to example number 2, we're going to see a very similar idea where we overcommit on a play on the ball and then do not get ourselves back into a supportive position in the most effective way we can. So let's see how this one plays out. We grab the mid boost here, pop on up, we get a nice little touch to the side, and we go for a reset into the wall, and we're going to land on low boost. We get our corner stolen, and now we're going to drive on out into the midfield, and wow, we get lucky that we do not get scored on. So you can again see the awkward position we are putting our teammates in because they don't necessarily have the support behind them that they might be expecting. So this play starts with this flip reset right here. So this control is perfectly fine, but again, when you're on the ball, it's incredibly important that you don't do too much. When you do too much, you more than often leave yourself in a bad spot, leave the ball in a bad spot, and leave your overall team in a bad spot. There would be nothing wrong here with just carrying this ball all the way to the wall and taking a pinch down into the opponent's corner. That's perfectly fine. That's safe. We've bought our team plenty of time to get set up for a push onto offense, and we can go ahead and collect boost on our landing. But instead, we try to get a little too flashy on this ball, where there's really no great thing that can come from getting a reset here. Like, nothing good is going to come out of this. Like, sure, maybe we get over one player, but there's a second one sitting right here ready to challenge whatever gets over this guy, so this isn't going to do anything for us. So when the ball just gets pinged back down the field, we land, we're looking for boost here, our corner gets stolen. That's unfortunate, but you know what? It happens. At this point, we need to lock in on a path of pads that will give us enough to work with, while also allowing us to break off from the path should we need to go make a play on the ball. And what I'm looking at right here is this triangle. Right there. So what we should do here is we should drive to this pad, and the big thing is we should be driving, not flipping, not using any boost that we pick up, just driving to this pad and this pad. Once we hit this pad, we can assess what's going on in the play, and we can now determine if we have time to go out and get this pad still and then come back, or if we need to just grab this pad and turn around and work our way back towards the net. Or if we need to, turn this way, and maybe we can grab this pad if we turn into the midfield. But we can assess the play and see where we're at in that situation. But instead of doing that, we flip over this pad, which now means that instead of just being here and driving and chilling out and recognizing, yeah, we do probably have time to go out and snag this one, we're all the way up here in the midfield. So now our teammates might be expecting that they have support back behind us, when in reality, we really only have two players back. We have the one player on the ball and we have the one player on the backboard. Nobody is actually currently defending the net because our third man is out here wandering around in the midfield. If we had just, driven out to this pad and now started to come back, now we have the entire net covered because our teammate has that wall and that area of the field covered. We have the back post and any bounce into the midfield covered, and we're all perfectly fine. But when we're not here, now when this ball bounces off the backboard and our teammate can't reach it, this is a completely free shot because there's no defender back to play the net. And we're very fortunate that this ball does not end up in the back, simply because we, again, left our teammates back alone when they should have had support back behind them. And then example number 3 is going to come just a couple of seconds later. We take a decent 50 in the midfield, and we're going to make the exact same play, essentially. Except now, we immediately get punished for it. So, yeah, you're going to notice a trend, and if you guys find yourself making any of these same mistakes, you are putting your team under a lot of unnecessary pressure for really no reason, simply because you are pushing too far up the field and leaving your team in vulnerable spots. So, this all happens, we are on 0 boost as we take this ball up the wall. Good fake, initially, we stay behind the ball, we force the 50, that's all well and good. Again, we land here. We recognize that one of our teammates is out of the play. Okay, so at this point, we only have one player back who's going to be responsible for buying us time to get ourselves reset into a position where we can play the ball. But again, we make their efforts completely useless if instead of allowing them to buy us time to get back as quickly as possible, we just don't get back at all, and instead just drive out into a random spot in the midfield, again looking for boost, and not getting back into a supportive spot for our teammates. So again, in this position, instead of going out to that mid boost, which doesn't do us a whole lot of good, especially because it's not there initially, if we just rotate, dodge that, and then rotate off of this pad here, and then see what's going on. Teammates cutting across, that's fine. We'll just keep going this way then. We can, go ahead and just drive back here, get this pad then, and see what's happening. Teammate still hasn't respawned. The ball's not super dangerous yet, so we can, go back over here perhaps. And now we can start to work back this way and maybe, see what's going on. But it gives us multiple players back. Like, we have the one player on the ball, we have the one player covering the near post, we have the other player who's respawned now covering the back post, and should we have a situation where this player respawns on this side, then we can instead just lengthen our rotation a little bit more, and now we play the back post and let them play the near post. But instead, we again leave our defense in an odd man situation, where because we are just out here doing basically nothing, just hanging out, we put our team in an immediate 3v2 with Rennet running across the front of the goal, Sergeant Blump getting this touch off the backboard, and now when our teammate gets bumped, there is nobody left to be able to make this save, because one teammate's gotten beat in the challenge, one teammate gets bumped, and because we're not involved in the play, the third player coming in from the opposing team gets a completely free shot on the net, and our other teammate is not able to recover quickly enough. But again, if we get ourselves back involved in the play a little bit faster, this entire situation goes away, and it is not dangerous at all. We're going to see one final example here, and it's going to be the exact same ideas that we've been talking about so far, hopefully to nail these thoughts into your mind so that you can eliminate these kinds of mistakes from your game as well. And I'm sure by now you guys are able to recognize the issue that we're seeing. Once again, we have an issue where we overcommit on the offensive play and then don't rotate in the most effective way for our team. And despite our teammates' efforts to buy us time, they are not able to do enough because we simply do not get back as quickly as we can. So right here, we take this shot. Granted, it's not the best shot. Probably should have been able to put this one like top shelf or something like that, but not the end of the world, It's a decent enough shot. It forces Scotty to make the save. As we land, though, it's very important that we do not overcommit into the opponent's net and slow down our rotation unnecessarily. What you should always consider is if the opponent is already going to be awkward on their landing, which they already are here, if your team is ready to approach for the shot, we don't need the bump. Like, this is just us being very aggressive into a spot on the field where we don't give ourselves a whole lot of easy routes to recover. So instead of diving into the net, we have two options. We can either hard cut out to the right side of the field. However, since the ball is bouncing off that area, maybe not, just to stay out of traffic and all that. We could also just turn and go out on the left side and pick up all the pads that we've already talked about in that curved path. But instead, we're going to dive into the net to try to get this bump in a spot that's really not effective for us because our team isn't prepared to shoot this ball anyway. But then again, very similar to what we saw before, we land in this very similar spot, and instead of just taking the pads back down the field and getting behind our teammates who are both right here as quickly as possible to make sure we have multiple defensive layers that the opponents will have to break down, we instead eye up the corner boost. And now, the very important thing that we see here is if we rewind just a couple of seconds, you can see that Riss already picked it up right there at 1:02 left. So it is absolutely not going to be here, but we don't have awareness that that boost was picked up. So now we go out for it anyway. This slows down our rotation unnecessarily. And then right now we could realize, okay, look, we're now in a situation where our teammate has committed. They get beat. We only have one teammate back once again. I need to make sure I'm behind them for when they get beat here because they are going to be trying to buy me time to get back. I need to make sure I use that time effectively And instead of cutting more narrowly across the field to make sure we get back a little bit quicker, we just go straight down the sidewall. We miss this mid boost, not that it would really matter, but then instead again of recognizing that there's some danger coming through from the opponents and being like, okay, well, this is kind of crap that we've missed this. And, you know, just kind of cutting our losses and cutting across the field this way and just getting whatever pads we can to put ourselves in a supportive position, we decide that it's more worthwhile to basically leave our teammate in this 1v1 by himself to go get this corner boost. Because at this moment, it seems that our focus is purely on getting boost and not on making sure we're in a spot to defend our net. And when your focus is on how can I put myself in a better position and not how can I put my team in a better position, you end up with goals being conceded like this because your teammates are attempting to buy you time to get back and you are not utilizing that time in the best way that you can, and you're constantly leaving them in bad spots where you're basically saying, good luck, I'm not going to be in a spot to support you, so hopefully you're able to win the interaction you're in. Now, I know this overall discussion was rather harsh, but in fairness, this is a critical mistake that you cannot afford to make. If you are hunting big boost or slowing your rotation and leaving your team in vulnerable spots, you are going to be the cause of a lot of goals that are conceded simply because you're not playing as an effective member of your team. And if you want to be able to claw into the highest ranks of the game, you need to understand how to be a member of that rotation so that you're not putting your team in vulnerable positions that are completely unnecessary. Of course, thank you everybody so much for watching. I really do appreciate each and every one of you who made it to this point in the video, and I do hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you did, make sure you click that subscribe button right down below so you make sure you don't miss any future Rocket League content. Additionally, once again, if you guys are interested in some free one-on-one coaching, or perhaps you just like to be a bit more involved in the community we're building here, do feel free to check out my Discord, which again is linked down in the description. And as always, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. See you later, guys.